Hey YouTube, Afin here. Today I present to you my Black Goat Laughs Mastersheet. So this will run you through how to use the first effect, the second effect going first or second, for most of the decks in the meta. I hope you guys enjoy and I hope you guys learn something, so let's get into it. We're going to start off with our very favourite Snake Eyes Fiendsmith, so the biggest meta contender. So I've got 3 columns in pretty much all of these slides. The first column relates to the effect on field, so that's when you set Black Goat and the next turn you flip it up, call a monster that you don't want your opponent to special summon. The second column relates to how you want to use the graveyard effect of Black Goat Laughs in order to interrupt your opponent building a board. And then the third column is how you want to use the graveyard effect of Black Goat Laughs to break a board. So, for Snake Eyes Fiendsmith, I suggest for the first effect, you either call Snake Eyes Poplar or Snake Eyes Flamberge Dragon. So, the timing for Poplar is when they add Poplar to the hand, then they go Chainlink 1 Poplar to summon, you go Chainlink 2 Black Goat. It keeps the Poplar stuck in their hand. It stops them from getting the place back effect when it goes to the graveyard. And it stops them getting that extra body and stops them getting extra tempo. So it takes out quite a few bits of pieces that they need to build their full combo. The other option that you have is Snake Eyes Flamberge Dragon. So usually you'd do this, they'd go Snake Eyes Ash effect to summon. They'd summon Oak reborn the Ash, and then they'd go Oak effect to summon. And on that Oak effect to summon, you chain Black Goat calling Flamberge, and then they don't have any good targets to summon. I think they have to summon Poplar at that point. As for the graveyard effects, so let's say you had to discard or you've used Beatrice to send Black Goats, you can call Snake Eyes Ash. This is obviously during the standby phase before they can normal summon the Ash. Or you can call Requiem when they summon the Closed Sky. So they go Closed Sky, and then you call Requiem at that moment. Suddenly that Link 2 body is just a Link 2 body, and it can't go into the Fiendsmith engine, and you pretty much lock them out. This is relying on them not having drawn the Fiendsmith engine to start off with. And then as for board breaking, you can call Desiree, Appaloosa, or IP Masquerader. For most of these board breaking options, you pretty much just call the one that is going to give you the biggest pain. There's not really like a right or wrong answer. Black Goat just basically trades 1 for 1 with the card. So, for Yubel Fiendsmith, I suggest that for the first effect, you call Phantom of Yubel. If Phantom of Yubel can't get onto the field, it stops them from shuffling back their Yubels, it stops them from getting a combo piece, and it also stops them from getting protection from your interactions. So I think that Phantom of Yubel is a really good call. As for the graveyard effects, if you're going first, calling Samsara D-Lotus, so when they normal summon Samsara D-Lotus, you activate the effect of Black Goat in the graveyard before they contribute it. Because they can't activate the effect, they can't tribute it, they can't get the effect. And the other one that you can call is Fiendsmith Requiem. Again, if they go into Closed Sky, you call Requiem before they can get into that Link 1, because that Link 1's a quick effect. And once again, for the board breakers, it's just whatever you want to deal with. I like dealing with Unchanged Soul of Rage because it leads into the SP Little Knight, so that's like 3 interactions that you take care of. So you pretty much want those like 1 for 3 trades or 1 for 2 trades. You want to pretty much try to stay out of 1 for 1 trades, or else you're going to just lose out in the long run. For Memento, for your field effect, I suggest calling the horse. I'm not going to try saying the name. But only after it's being added off Anguish. So you want to make sure that you're calling something that you know that your opponent has. I think the horse is a pretty big combo piece for them. You can also call pretty much anything that they add off the witch because you know that they need it to summon. So maybe like Trihorn as well, or even the new Memento fusion. As for the graveyard effect, for breaking the board, you can call the fusion monster. You can call IP Masquerader or Appaloosa. Don't call the 5,000 attack normal ones, effect monster, because the trap card which turns it into Appaloosa is the one that's like activating, and the one that's on field doesn't actually do much. For Tenpai Dragon, you want to get rid of their tuner. So for the field effect, you call Chandra, but that's only after they have used their normal summon. So let's say they go normal summon Fadra or normal summon Pydra. That's the point where you call Chandra. This locks them out of having their tuner, which means they're going to be unable to get into any of their synchro plays. As for the graveyard effects, you can call Chandra. If they like normal summon Chandra and go into the battle phase, you call it at the start of the battle phase. That way it stops it from being able to search in the damage step. Or you can call Fadra just to keep bodies off their field. And as for board breaking, there's only one option that you can call because Tenpai only finishes on one card, and that's Seals. For Branded, we've got a lot of options here because Branded has a lot of kind of diverse lines and you don't exactly know what your opponent is going into. But typically off the Branded Fusion, you can call Albion. If they don't have Albion, then they can't get into like Lubellion, so they can't set Lost. They can't set during the end phase, so it's a pretty good call. But if you're unsure whether they're going to go into it, you can also call the Mirror Jade, just in case, like if you want to worry about getting into that and then having to deal with it. And Grand Rigonol is also a really good target if they've started off with Cartesia. As for the graveyard effects, going first, either Albion or Grand Rigonol. Pretty much like hitting that first fusion that they summoned is really powerful. So if you can call that right one, if you can call that fusion correctly, it'll be very good for you. And for the second effect, breaking the board, if they haven't puppet locked you by now, you can call Guardian Chimera. So if they go branded in red, you call Guardian Chimera. You can call Mirror Jade, because I think with the builds that are running right now, especially if they're like ending on Quem, they like to summon Mirror Jade multiple times and use its effect multiple times because it's a different monster. So you can call Mirror Jade and it'll lock them out of all of them. So if you call like Mirror Jade, then they pretty much have to, like, their only other interaction is to go into Guardian Chimera or Quietus. But if they do try to puppet lock you, this is Pearly specific information. You can activate, like depending on how they're puppet locking you, you can activate Memory as like your first action in draw phase and potentially get ahead of the Albion. But once again, it depends how they're puppet locking you. Like, if their first action is to summon Sanctifier Dragon, so you activate Memory, they activate Branded in red to summon Sanctifier Dragon, it's too late to activate the Black Goat Laughs. So it has to really rely on them kind of not having Gimmick Puppet in the graveyard to start off with, but if you've got no other way to stop it, you might as well try. As for Ritual Beast lives and dies on Ulti-Canahawk. So if you call Ulti-Canahawk for your on-field effect, they can never get into it, they can never search with it, they can never tag out with it, so it's really good. And pretty much doing the first graveyard, the graveyard effect to call it if you're going first as well, because it pretty much needs to activate its effects to search and to tag out. As for breaking a board, you can either call Ulti Raritari or Appaloosa, and you should be good to go. Just be mindful of Protoss. So if your deck hard loses to Protoss and you can't stop the Ritual Beast, I'd probably call Protoss if that's your silver bullet. For Plant Link, I am going to be saying that you should be calling Jasmine. Jasmine provides a lot of synergy between the engines in Plant Link, so it's a really good idea to make sure that it never hits the board in the first place. And even just preventing the effects with the graveyard effect is really good. And once again, with the board breaker, as a board breaker, you just call any piece. Pretty much all of the Plant Link cards will trade 1 for 1, so you can't particularly call any high value targets. As for Voiceless, the on-field effect, you call Skull Guardian. If they can't ritual summon it, it means that the only way they're going to get it on the field is if they search blessings and have blessings on the field for your turn, and then when you summon, they can summon. But by that point, you should have a decent board by then. You don't want to stop low, because low is normal summon. You can go, if they go Diviner and they tribute Diviner with Trias, then you can call low potentially and you stop the low coming into rotation. That's also quite nice, but I would pretty much stick to the Skull Guardian because it's their main kind of beat stick, it's their main kind of form of pushing through. As for the graveyard effects, this one you can actually call the low to stop the barrier from being placed, but if they have a god hand of Skull Guardian, low already in hand, and a way to ritual summon, it pretty much doesn't really matter that you've called low, because the low can still activate in the graveyard to summon itself. It just can't place that spell and trap. And then for your graveyard effects, once again, I would suggest calling Skull Guardian, because either they negate it here or they don't. But if you say have Black Goat and Dark Ruler, even if you Dark Ruler the board, they'll sometimes use the trap card to summon another Skull Guardian, and then that one will be live. So you can go Black Goat, call Skull Guardian to prevent that from happening. And then you can also call Dragon Sage because that'll either summon out another Saravis or it'll summon out it'll summon out normal Saravis or it'll summon out Skull Guardian. Gimmick Puppet. You can either call the new Macanex or you can call Gimmick Puppet of Strings. I would suggest calling the Strings because the reason why you would call Macanex is to stop them getting to their rank up spell. But if they've hard drawn it, and I think it's probably a one of, but if they hard draw it, you're out of luck. But if you call the Gimmick Puppet of Strings, it stops them from putting strings counters on your monsters, and also stops them from popping the string counters because they're going to have a hard time getting into the whatever the rank 9 of the strings is. And the same for the graveyard effect. So if they can't place the string counters, they can't get the damage from the string counters. For Melodious, for your field effect, I would call Barker. If Barker can't get on the field, it means that it can't search. It can't go to the graveyard for the reborn, so it's a really big one. And for your graveyard effects, I would try calling Soprano, because they will loop Soprano like 2 or 3 times for the extra fusion summons, which means that they have to rely on just the Concerto for 1 fusion summon in their turn. And then for your graveyard effects, you would call Etoile or Schuberta. Depends on which one your deck loses to more. If your deck can live without the graveyard, you just call Etoile. But if your deck like lives and dies by the graveyard, like let's say you're playing Tia, then you definitely call the Schuberta. And that's it for today. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something. I'm Afian. Like and subscribe for more Pearly content.